Okay, I'm gonna let it upload right quick.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So, wow, historic night. Really, I guess the first debate between President Trump and President Biden, because the last election, Biden didn't really say much because he had the mask on because of COVID. He
Right.
didn't really say much. So this is really the first official debate. So historic night. So I want to get Mr. Mitchell, just get your quick um, thoughts on the format, what you thought on the overall debate. Doing this, Trump and Biden presidential debate, who won is better than listening to CNN because I think you get more honest answers.
Yeah, man. You know, if I did drink, I feel like I would need one. It's probably my immediate, my knee-jerk response. I think the thing that already kind of sets the tone is that this is the first time that we have an assumed candidate, right? First time in history where we have a presidential debate from a person that hasn't really run yet. Although he's former president, but the RNC has not, at least to my knowledge, officially endorsed Trump as the uh, candidate. So, I feel like that's already setting the tone for what to expect in November, and really between now and November. Um, but it's my knee jerk response. I'm almost at a loss for words because um, the immediate thought is that this is our choice. This is our choice as the American public. Um, we have a rising population amongst Gen Z. We have a rising population even amongst the younger millennials, which are in their I think early 30s at this point. Um, so in other words, we have a rising population of folks that do not have representation on that stage, and these are the folks that have to kind of usher in our future. As we begin to age out, as the baby boomers begin to age out, as Gen X begins to age out, they're the ones that are going to have to inherit these policies and their impacts. And it's heavy. It's a heavy heart from what I saw today. I was not. I was not. I didn't walk away with any kind of glimmer. I was looking for a glimmer of optimism, something to look forward to, and unfortunately, I didn't see it. I didn't see it. There was some truth told on both sides. There was some overestimations, exaggerations from both sides equally as well. There was some moments of entertainment, obviously coming from Trump's side. He's definitely quick with the zingers, and was able to get a couple in. But um, outside of the cynicism that tends to come with uh, the presidential debates, um, there's still a level of seriousness here. All right, that when you really begin to consider that these are the possible choices, uh, for the next 4 years, and we are in a extremely dire situation economically. You know, even our environmentally, we're in a dire situation. Um, we when we kind of look around, not to be alarmist, but when we look around, um, feels like we are in a alarm fire, despite what's happening in markets. Um, with unexplainable new highs breaking out every day, but that does not represent the majority of Americans. That does not represent the majority of households. That does not represent the majority of folks, working class individuals, which is the majority of this country. So, outside of those moments of, cynicism, um, it gets very heavy very quickly when you realize the implications of either of these gentlemen stepping into office the next 4 years. So that's my initial knee jerk response.
Okay. Actually, I didn't think it was as bad as I thought it would be. I didn't. I was kind of suspicious of the format. You have these two co-moderators, Jay Tapper and this lady. CNN was clearly, prior to the debate, clearly pro Biden, but they seemed kind of neutral. I didn't think Trump lost anything by, having CNN have the option to cut his mic. I don't think they cut anybody's mic tonight. Then they tried to move the debate along when people were a little long-winded or didn't get to the point or didn't answer the question directly. I think they moved it along. So the format wasn't as bad as I thought. I would have thought Biden would have, leaned on his record more. This is what I've done. This is what I stand for. He kept trying to attack Trump, which I didn't think was a good idea. He kept trying to attack Trump's record, and I don't think anybody remembers much before the pandemic. To be honest with you, so I think that was not good on his part. So I thought he would have said, "This is what I've done. This is what I've accomplished." He did nothing, none of that. He reminds me of I'm sitting there thinking like, this is why he lost for president 3 previous times, because he already run for president 3 times and kept losing, and so I thought it was a big miss on his part. And basically, I think we know what the issues are. I think we both know what both these candidates stand, and so I didn't think we really learned much that we didn't already know. So I walked away more depressed than I was previously. How bad the situation really is.
Yeah.
That we have a big hole and nobody seems to be trying to fix it or have the capability of fixing it. So I just want to go through like a high level, like maybe 30 seconds, just what you thought on who won on these different issues. The first one would be inflation. Who you thought won sort of was more decisive on inflation or seemed to have a better policy on inflation or better grasp of inflation?
I guess I would say optically, maybe Trump, simply because he is a better communicator. And what I mean by that is he was able to express his points with more emphasis, with more clarity. Um, you know, simply because Biden stumbles and mumbles. He's not clear with his words. He doesn't project his voice a lot of the times when he speaks. So, depending on the listener, some of the points, even though they may be accurate, can still be lost, if that makes sense. But judging primarily from the accuracy, I would say it's about 50-50. I would say that it's a pretty even, an even tie. It's both stated things that were both accurate and inaccurate, right? Each president inherits from the previous president. So equally, every president blames the previous president for any mistakes, but always takes credit for any successes, right? And both did that tonight. Biden was first to talk about how he inherited from horrible policies, horrible economy, COVID, from Trump, which was not inaccurate, certainly contributed to uh, to inflation, but equally Trump inherited some of uh, the successes that he takes credit for from the Obama administration, right? So, yes, inflation was lower under Trump. That's a material fact. Inflation was significantly higher under Biden. That's a material fact, right? But if we're taking a serious approach to this, then we understand that this is really a culmination, as we talk about on this show, probably every time we flip on the cameras, that this is really a culmination of the last 20 years of crappy policies that are supported largely by the Federal Reserve. Really triggered by Hank Paulson and Timothy Geithner during the handling of the 08-09 financial crisis, and QE that lasted for 13 years, right? So Trump coincidentally inherited during a time while the bull market was still, was still on its last legs, right? And got out just in the nick of time, kicked the can down the proverbial street for Biden to step in, and obviously, ish hit the fan, and that mixed with COVID, mixed with corporate greed, and it's a perfect storm for inflation to skyrocket. I would put him at a kind of a dead heat, giving Trump the slight edge simply because of his ability to communicate better than Biden.
Yeah, I think Trump won this because I think there's a question really for Biden to answer. This is my record. This is what I've done about inflation. I mean, obviously some of it because of the dip in the done by the pandemic, and we come out of the pandemic, it created all this opportunity for price gouging, so on and so forth. But that should have dissipated by now. I think if he was going to do something, I think he should have done it already. I think he stutters a lot because he's trying to evade the question. He's trying to talk about Trump's record. So I think the question for him to say, this is what inflation is, this is what we've done about it. He didn't answer that. He started talking in circles. So trying to talk about Trump's record, Trump's not president anymore. So I think it was really an opportunity for him to talk about, this is my record, this is where inflation is, this is what we've done about inflation. He's talking about what we're going to do next. He's still like he's in Verba is in eternal campaigning about what we're going to do next, not about what he's done. So he didn't take the man and talk about his record. This is what inflation is. This is what we've done about it. So he keeps trying to deflect to Trump, which doesn't work. I mean, it may have worked last time during the last election, but it doesn't work now. And I don't think you see a lot of Negro whisperers jump on the bandwagon. I think they're quiet because they know better. Because I mean, people, I think the public in general are getting tired of attacking Trump's character. Trump's not president now. You're the president. And let's talk about your record. I think it was a missed opportunity to talk about his record, and probably a missed opportunity because they hadn't done much on inflation. Okay, let's go to abortion. What do you think about that?
This was a pretty hot, hot topic. I think again, we've talked about this a few different times. Overturning Roe v. Wade. As I've stated, it still surprises me that understanding, or at least being socialized to understand that Roe v. Wade has been a core tenet of feminism, and even if you aren't a feminist or identify as a feminist as a woman, this is still women's rights, human rights. So it still surprises me that women have not collectively torn down the country after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. But I think that I have to give it to, Biden on this one, like apprehensively. And the reason being because Trump Trump just said some things as usual. I feel like every question, there's at least one or two sentences where he exaggerates. One of the bigger points was that states can allow anything, that they're aborting babies even after they're born. And it's like, sir, that's just called murder. That's not abortion at that point. That's just plain murder. That's called infanticide. We have a word for that. Murdering infants. So it's like, the there's a time that hyperbole can be appreciated, but that subject is not it. That's not it. Like, you want to be accurate, right? You want to be accurate when you're talking about the legal definitions, because one, this is a highly controversial issue. You have single issue voters out there, right? Reproductive rights, reproductive health, women's rights, human rights. This is not an issue where you want to exaggerate. This is not an issue where you want to be hyperbolic, and really look to score, I think, political points. You're no longer in office. As he did state that he put the 3 Supreme Court justices in place. And one of the things that I think I'm going to wait to see what the fact checkers say in terms of his claim that everybody, if you remember that, because he loves using infinitives. Always, never, everybody, everything, everywhere. But he said everyone wanted to remove it from the federal government hands and into states' rights. Legal scholars, Republicans, Democrats, when it was first proposed in the 50s. I don't know how true that is, and obviously, being how hyperbolic Trump is, I do take it with a grain of salt, but it may be accurate, right? So I do leave room there to be wrong. But the point is that you don't want to be kind of misrepresenting such a highly sensitive topic that can sway voters. This is not 4 years ago, right? This is a new kind of 4 years in, right? We are in a post Roe v. Wade world. One of the things that came to mind when they were speaking, and I was kind of wondering if it was going to come up, but there was a particular instance of the AG, I believe it was the AG out of Texas, that was gunning for the young lady that was seeking to have an abortion, qualified for the exception according to the state's new rulings. Went all the way to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled in the young lady's favor that I believe they even put an injunction to the new rulings in order for exceptions like hers to be made. And the DA still wants to go after this young lady. And it's a intentional targeting. And the fact that, no one took the opportunity, I think maybe Biden missed an opportunity there to bring up the impact of states' rights and some of the negative implications that can happen when you leave it to states. Because some states, as they indicated, rightfully so, some states are more liberal, some states are more conservative than others. You have 7 states that don't have a term. But again, we've established once the child comes out, it's called murder. So, I guess the term is 9 months or 10 months. But the point being is that they have a far-reaching term. So, depending on where you live, depending on which state you're a resident of, this is a topic that you don't want to get wrong. Right. So, because of that, I have to give it to Biden.
All right, I'll say I give it to Trump because the worst case scenario is already already in play. They've already overturned Roe versus Wade. That's the worst case scenario. I think Trump did acknowledge the fact that in case of rape or incest, he's for abortion. I think he also, from what I remember, I think he also said he would allow the abortion pill. He's not going to try to. I don't think he said he's going to deny people that. Which is really birth control.
Right.
But like I think it's different from an abortion. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but so he did say he would allow the pill. He also said that in certain instances he would allow an abortion. He also talked about states' rights, which is
not to cut you. The pill is the abortion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the pill is the abortion. It's an abortion pill.
Uh huh. Oh, is he gonna allow it?
That's what he was
Did
saying.
he say he would allow it?
Yeah, just to make the.
Did he say he would allow that? Okay. So I think right. So the worst case scenario. I think the worst case scenario is already built in. Now he's kind of digging himself out of a hole, like saying that I will allow the abortion pill. So I think that can relieve some people's minds. He also talked about states' rights, but I'm not sure if that's a benefit or not to women because it seems like the wild, wild west. Like it could be these varying outcomes depending on the state. But Biden said, "Oh, you packed the court with conservative jurors, and they overturned Roe v. Wade, where he was a conservative president." What do you think he was going to do? The better question is, why did Trump get elected? Why did he get elected? That's the question.
What was it?
If the Democrats are doing a great job, they'll never. I beg your pardon.
I said, and by.
I said if Trump had right, and so if the Democrats have done a great job, there would have never been a need for Trump. The administration where Joe Biden was the vice president. So I think that was a weak point right there. But then Biden said he's going to fight Roe versus Wade. I'm trying to figure out how. But the worst case is already in play. Roe v. Wade has been overturned, and we talked about it on Trump and the GE that it was going to be overturned. If the Obama administration didn't start addressing the working class individuals, they were going to put Trump in office. He's going to pack the court. So Biden saying you packed the court with conservative jurors. How do you get elected? That's the question. So to me, I think Trump won that issue. I don't think he's going to lose women votes because the jurors overturned Roe v. Wade 4 years ago, but a couple years ago.
Right.
So I don't think that's a whole lot of ground that I don't think there's a whole lot of ground Biden can make up there. The borders. So they did talk about the borders. What do you thought about that?
That was the doozy, right? I think, I guess more broadly speaking, this was one of the areas where, Trump, in my opinion, missed a couple of points because he continued to talk about essentially do the tit for tat thing. Let me respond to Biden's response to my response, right? So I feel as though the first time that they asked him about the border and immigration, he missed, I think, a point where he could have really been more emphatic, just kind of in the format. But I got it, like, hands down. I just got to give it to Trump. Like, it's, the numbers are clear. One of the things that stands out that, I have been paying attention to simply because it was almost hard to believe. I was like, it's got to be a made up number where there's nearly 2 million illegal immigrants that have passed through the border that are not accounted for right now, meaning that CPB doesn't have a tracking on these folks, and that they're in the population. I was like, that got to be a Republican talking point to attack Dems on week weak security, etc. And come to find out, it was accurate. It's pretty accurate, pretty accurate point. So all in all, with the roughly 1.8 million undocumented illegal immigrants, in addition to I believe it's like 7.3 or 7.4 legally documented immigrants that have come in. Exactly, exactly. Do the math. Do the math. That's a wild number. That's an absolute wild number when you think about the state that the country was in prior to the borders being open. And let me say emphatically, this is not xenophobic by any stretch of the imagination. But this is a material fact that when you have 80% of the country that is working class, that is struggling to make ends meet, you have at least 30% of the country that is underemployed, meaning that they don't make enough wages to make ends meet every single month. Not to mention the high unemployment rate when you include people that have been unemployed longer than 6 months, that drop off the unemployment claims. So when you include those folks and folks that are underemployed, you're already looking at close to a third of the country. I believe like 94, 96 million folks that are experiencing financial insecurity already. We haven't even engaged, future planning, meaning Social Security, meaning the ability to save for their children's education, etc. And then you're throwing nearly 10 million more individuals into that mix that takes resources from every tax-paying individual that goes towards the support of the over 7 million documented immigrants. And it's like this country is already on the brink, right? So this is a material fact. And this was all under Biden's watch. One of the things that is more challenging is to find the specific number that have come under that came under Trump's watch. One of the things that does stand out is that CPB, the amount of illegal immigrants that were attempting to cross through borders had increased significantly under Trump. I think it was like 50,000 a month, and it jumped to nearly 80,000 a month, and resulted in about 800,000, roughly or so, that went undocumented by CPB. So, but there is still a lot of context and data missing from that. But to me, that even speaks to the picture that clearly the immigration, there was greater immigration control under Trump. If the pieces to the puzzle are harder to put together, in other words, right? Whereas under Biden, the pieces to the puzzle are right there, like for you to pick up and just put together. That speaks to how large the problem is, how obvious the issue is. And when you look at what's happening, what Trump was saying was accurate. Where, another thing that blew my mind, because again, almost I couldn't believe it when the article first came out that New York City, of all places, was giving debit cards to illegal immigrants, giving them $1,000 a month. And I was like, that got to be, some conservative talking point. And lo and behold, it is a policy that the newly, at that time, newly minted mayor, Eric Adams, did in fact allow for immigrants that were coming in specifically as a sanctuary city and being bused from places like California, Texas, and Florida to New York City, and they're being housed in hotels. Meanwhile, veterans and homeless people are struggling to find housing, and they're given debit cards where, yes, every single month they get to qualify to pay for their expenses, and the city puts a certain dollar amount on that card every single month. And it's absolutely, like, to me, I find it absolutely egregious. But this is under Biden's watch. This is under Biden's administration. We just did not see anything like in New York City. You know, when you look at the crime that's happening as a result of the influx of immigrants that are coming in a city that is already teetering, right? In a city that's already overcrowded, in a city that's already high cost of rent. And that's just one example, in other words. So Biden, or Trump, I should say, this is probably the one area that he didn't have to be hyperbolic, because the facts are so egregious that you don't need to massage them for shock value. They are shocking enough on their own. So yeah, Trump hands down.
Okay. Yeah, I think he nailed this. I think he mentioned, basically high-level talking points. Talk about they're letting other countries letting people come out of insane asylums into the country. They're letting people come out of jails and prisons and coming into the U.S. and these countries don't want them back. They're staying in hotels. They're getting benefits. So he's saying all the things that that are the things that scare the daylights out of the American public, scare the daylights out of the Republicans, even wealthy people. And so he's saying things that the feedback he's getting from, for instance, African Americans in Chicago who were complaining about them, months ago, about how come these, immigrants can get benefits we can't get. So he's saying all the right talking points, and Biden had no answer for it, none. I think it's interesting that people just don't deal with the facts, and they don't address the issues, and they don't speak facts. Because when Trump first talking about, I'm gonna put up a wall, people thought it was crazy, and he built the wall. He said we need to secure our borders, and people were saying he was xenophobic, he was racist. Now all of a sudden the border issue is a major issue for everybody, including African Americans, and nobody's ever apologized to Trump. So the same thing he was talking about when he was running for office a few years ago, now it's an issue under Biden. And he also talked about maybe Biden wants to turn these people into voters. So it's clearly a political ploy by the Biden administration. People complaining about this, and they're still not. I mean, why would anybody even consider, Biden in these cities where there's been overrun by legal immigrants, when it's clearly a Democratic ploy to open the borders to let people come over here so they can turn them into voters, to Democrats. So I think Biden lost in the he's dead in the water on this issue, and I think it could be one of those one voter issues for the public. It's a travesty what he and the Democratic Party have done to this country, and nobody said a word. And it hurt a lot of African Americans, a lot of people in the cities, and the Negro whispers quiet. Joe Biden never said he would do this when he was running for office. So they said resist Trump, resist Trump, resist Trump. Nobody ever said this what the Biden administration was going to do. This what resisting Trump would lead to. Nobody ever said that, and nobody's ever apologized. So it's you get down to the facts and the evidence versus talking points and smoke and mirrors. So I think this could be the one thing that could sink anybody considering voting for Biden. I think it's just people who don't necessarily care about the country or care about the facts, or just sort of almost like voting against their own interests. Opiate crisis. What do you thought about that? Quickly.
Yeah, I thought I actually liked the fact that the moderators brought up that the death toll increased under both presidents. I thought that was, keeping keeping them accurate, right? because that's absolutely right, right? That we, again, it's this is all inherited, right? Trump inherited this from the Obama administration. Obama administration here, like drugs have been, I guess you could really put it at the doorstep of the first Bush, all right, as a CIA director. If you want to pin it on someone where drugs were allowed to be flooded in, so to say this evolution, in other words, was inevitable. But you know, I I think just optically, um, Trump handled, and we've talked about this extensively. So I almost feel like we're probably a little bit more biased than most. But Trump, hands down, has handled the opioid crisis significantly better than Biden. Um, we've done tons of shows to evidence that the opioid crisis has actually gotten worse as a result of the adjudication process, led by none other than New York's Letitia James. She still, runs around the ring with her hands to the sky like she won something great. Um, Meanwhile, states are still suffering, people are still suffering, so services are still begging for resources that, frankly, the AGs failed to get. Um, and the only reason that, at least we strongly believe, because the evidence points to it, that this was allowed to go on, this opioid crisis has been allowed to go on this long, is because of the political aspirations of the AGs, including Letitia James. Clearly, there was an ulterior motive, and her very short gubernatorial run was evidence of that, as you personally heard me say, at least 6 months, maybe even a year prior to her doing that, that this has to be politically motivated, because the way that this opioid crisis is being handled, within course, just didn't make sense. Didn't make sense at all. That you have corporations that are coming to the table, willing to negotiate, saying that they participated in the rules, but they're willing to pay fines, and you take 3 years to even just give a number that can be negotiated. But the only reason that it got that far is because Trump was putting putting pressure, and having the DOJ put pressure on these AGs to get this thing done, to get a deal done. But with him outgoing, Biden coming into office, and then really that last year Trump was in office, he was really in battle, right? Between the Mueller investigation and everything else, your attention can only be spread so thinly. But the point is that it's gotten significantly worse under Biden, and Biden has no response. He has no real solution, much like everything else that he has responded to tonight has been blame Trump, blame Trump. Let's get Trump out of office. Let's make sure he's no longer a threat. But as you stated, for the last 4 years, he's been president. Biden has been president. He cannot continue to point the finger at Trump and blame Trump and, vote blue no matter who, and all of the other goofiness that these Dems have been parroting for, the last few years. This is on you. This is your record. These are people, that you have put in office at this point. These are judgeships. As we're watching the deterioration of judgeships happening, this is under Biden's watch. These are folks that the Biden administration have anointed, and they're doing a piss poor job, frankly. So, hands down, Trump.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the opiate crisis. I mean, yes, Trump was the one of the first administrations to say we're gonna. I guess it's part and parcel of this overall thing. We're gonna rein in drug costs, and we're gonna do something about the rising cost of drugs, and we're gonna do something about the opiate crisis because so many pills flooding the market. And Trump said we're gonna do something about it. At least he was in the throes of it and trying to make decision with the help of people in the healthcare industry, and so we're gonna try to rein in, at least try to figure out what's going on. I mean, just trial and error and rein in some of these the manufacture of these pills and get the opiate companies to opiate manufacturers to help fund the costs. And we get a deal done, and then slow down the Biden. But they really don't give you the numbers in terms of like how much was rising under Trump versus Biden. But after the opiate deal has been done, we still have rising drug overdose deaths and no answer for it. At least Trump was like, look, we're going to address this. We're going to do something about it. Biden seems to be asleep at the wheel. And it's been an utter failure to have, after all the opiate settlements, billions of dollars, and all this happy talk and all this publicity for the AGs, what are the results? Why are drug-related deaths still rising? And then Biden sent some incoherent stuff about testing, using machines to test fentanyl and so on and so forth. He just basically asleep at the wheel and had no answer for the question. What has he done? Why hasn't the opiate settlements worked? We know that one can work at all to begin with, but why hasn't it worked? And just keep saying we're going to do this and we're going to try that. It's an utter failure, and the American people deserve better. I mean, ultimately, these opiate settlements were never going to work anyway. Just fill the coffers of these states, and we don't know what the money's being used for, but the deaths is still rising. So it's almost like you can't do anything about it. So Trump definitely won that segment. So ultimately, who do you think won the debate? I'm curious.
I'm gonna have to give it to Trump. He's the better orator, has better stage presence. Obviously 4 years, well, I should say 8 years later, from his initial run, significantly older. And I don't know if it was because of the format, which I think both candidates, both people, president and the candidate, followed pretty well. These things can get childish very, very quickly. And especially between these two, right? Because I think they genuinely have a chip on their shoulder, one about the other, right? So this thing can get juvenile very quickly. But I have to give it to the both of them that I think that they stayed kind of on the straight and narrow for most of the debate. But I think we are watching possibly a little bit more subdued Trump. And I don't know. Again, maybe it's what is taking place over the last 8 years, right? He's not as boisterous, right? Not as full of bluster as when he first stepped on the stage 2016 and just tooting trumpet horn and everything else, right? A little bit more reserved, right? A bit more measured. He still over exaggerates some things here and there. But I thought it was I actually thought it was a nice pace, a little bit more presidential, but it also could be age related. He's old. He is in I believe he's 80, right? Or knocking on the door of 80. We're talking about octogenarians here, so it's just natural part of aging is to slow down a little bit more. But you know, in terms of stage presence, energy, um, you know, I think is Trump, right? But even to me, um, Biden, uh, even during his 2020 run, he didn't have great stage presence then, right? And it's only worsened. Um, you know, I'm glad that they brought the questions out head on, uh, and you know, direct the moderators directly addressing, and even with Trump kind of forcing him, like although he did answer the first time, so I thought it was a little bit unfair when they asked him, will he concede the vote if you know it goes against him, like whoever gets voted in, will he essentially accept the results? And he said, you know, if it's fair, if it's legal, etc., absolutely. He said that the first time, and then they asked him two more times. It almost made it seem like he didn't answer, but he actually answered it directly, right? He didn't obfuscate. You know, he obviously added more into it after answering, but he responded immediately and said, if it's fair, if it's legal, absolutely, yes. And he answered it each time. So they asked him three times in total. He answered it directly three times in total, which I thought was really good for Trump because it kind of puts a stamp on things to make it very clear that this is where I stand, this is what I'm willing to do, and this is what I will be willing to accept. So you know, I thought that the way he answered it gave him a stronger impression as well. Um, and you know, with Biden, he
Right, right. I mean, I think
oh, you know, and he really didn't have a good, at least in my opinion, I don't think he really had a good response to that. Um, you know, oh, I was the youngest, and then I'm the oldest. It's like, okay, like is that like is that supposed to reassure us that you've been doing this for a very long time? That you won't keel over. I mean, kudos for making it through the debate. You know, it was like, you know, weekend at Bernie's. It was like watching you know, somebody, you know, with a life-size puppet. But you know, kudos for not dying on stage, I guess. Yeah.
so. Yeah, the question about you know, would Trump accept defeat? That's a silly question from CNN. That's why I was kind of reticent. You know, I heard CNN was going to moderate the debate. You know, when you got the Boston Celtics playing the Dallas Mavericks, who asked the Boston Celtics, if you're out lose, are you going to be upset? Who would ask? Who would even entertain the idea of asking? You know what I'm
Uh,
saying? What happens if you guys lose? I mean, you wouldn't be on ESPN again. I can tell you that. You asked that question. But yeah, I think Trump definitely won. I think when you talk about his more measured stance, I think that was more like his version of like what they call in football the prevent defense. I think he's so far ahead. He just doesn't want to mess up, and just give them high level talking points on each of the issues, and just stand back and let Joe stutter. But yeah, he definitely won the debate. I mean, he was measured. He gave the high level talking points. I think Joe Biden missed the opportunity. I don't think he's going to take an opportunity to talk about his record. He keeps trying to attack Trump. Like, dude, that's not going to work. He missed badly trying to tie Trump to Charlottesville. He tried to talk about this fake story.
oh, yeah.
Talking about in Charlottesville. Like, there's no more Negro whisperer to come and talk about Trump's racist. And we need to take down the flag, and we need to take down the statues. And they had tiki torches in Charlottesville. There's no more Negro whisperer to come to your aid, Joe Biden. They make these things an issue and make these things a campaign issue. That's why we need to get rid of Trump because so his if he failed miserably trying to talk about Charlottesville and this fake story about so-called fake story about losers and suckers. I mean, it was just, dude, like,
Yeah,
do you have a
yeah.
record? Talk about your record, or you know what I'm saying? So I think that was it's just, the more he does that, the more it seems like he doesn't really have a record. I mean, he has nothing to talk about other than, attack Trump, and he had no response to Trump's points about weaponizing the DOJ, or not DOJ, weaponizing these DAs or state AGs against him because he can't be his political opponent. He had no comeback for that, none. So, I mean, at this point, I don't think that should be. We don't. I don't think we need any more debates other than to help some of these TV shows get ratings. Because we know what the issue. We know what the issues are, and we know what these guys are going to say. We know Biden's going to talk, and I answer a question, and we know what Trump's high-level points are about the economy and keeping the country safe, so on and so forth. The last question I had was which also makes Biden look weak. I think Obama and some other people were floating this idea. At least maybe it came from the media. That they were floating this idea that if Trump did, that if Biden stumbled early on during the debates, they would just pull him and bring another candidate in to run against Trump, which makes Biden look weak. Obama's going to do what? Obama and Hillary are going to do what? I think Hillary's probably somewhere stretching right now. Making sure she didn't pull a hamstring. If she has to step in again, I'm sure she'd love to come in and run again. But they were floating that idea. So do you think they pull? Do you think they pull? Do you think they give Biden a hook? Maybe he gave up too many homers this game and could pull somebody from the bullpen.
I think if they do, there's still going to be voters, right? Because overall, it does make them look weak. It makes them look incompetent. Essentially, that is a vote of no confidence in your president, right? And honestly, it's almost treasonous if you really think about it, right? That you're saying that you're going to go against the actual standards that have been set in place to maintain the continuity of the presidency, right? Which goes beyond an individual. It's an office. And you're saying you're going to violate those standards because you don't like whatever that reason is, whatever follows the because we don't think his health is great, because we don't think he's a strong candidate, because like whatever follows that because ultimately is just another way of saying it's a vote of no confidence. And have a vote of no confidence for a sitting president while he's still sitting. Like it's almost treasonous. You know, like it's.
What if the January 6th committee did that? The guys from January 6th. What if the guys from January 6th suggested something like that? It would be like, see what they did? That's violent. That's an insurrection, right?
Exactly. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me, but you know, between the liberal media, like voters will justify whatever the Democratic Party needs to do. Like I can already hear the justifications. There's still going to be a record number of voters that turn out. It's still going to be, you know, some large number of Democrats voting because I'm sure they're going to take the narrative and, you know, curate it in such a way that justifies this action of having to replace the president and not replacing it with the person that's already there, the vice president, which is also a vote of no confidence because if your vice president is not the natural next, like you're ultimately saying this administration has been a complete mistake, and we're trying to undo the entire mistake. And good God, if they bring
Let's call the
say that again.
Let's call it what, Alexander Haig syndrome. Let's call it Alexander Haig syndrome. Remember when he said, "I'm in charge here," when really it should have been after Reagan got shot. It really should have been George Bush. Who are you?
Right. It's like, but yeah, that's absolutely it, right? It's So yeah, that's just that. To the logical, that's what that is. Is this is a weak administration? You're admitting that it's weak. You're admitting it was a mistake. You're admitting that the all of the parroting, all of the sloganeering that you did back in 2020 was simply that, right? It was sloganeering without any substance, and you're now demanding that people pay for your mistake because of this looming threat. Like, oh, we got Trump again. We gotta defeat Trump. Yes, we made a bad decision with Biden, but it was worth it to keep Trump out of office. Because y'all remember what happened between 2016 and 2020, right? It was the worst thing ever, ever. First 12 presidents owned slaves, but Trump was significantly worse. First Bush completely obliterated the black community by bringing in drugs, but Trump was worse. Nixon took us off the gold standard, but Trump was worse. The whole Watergate scandal, but Trump was worse. Right? Reagan deregulated everything, but Trump was worse. It's like, logic completely goes out of the window with these folks. And so I'm sure they're going to spin it. And spin it in such a way to use Trump as the boogeyman so that people look the other way and get distracted by their tactics. Right? They're better than David Blaine. Not even David Blaine could pull off a magic trick this well orchestrated. So yeah.
Right.
So if that's true, it's wild. But
It makes the U.S. look.
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes the U.S. in general makes the U.S. look like from the outside we look ignorant, like we have the most. We gotta have one of the most uninformed politics in the world. When people just repeat random talking points and people just follow it, and along with we need to resist Trump because we don't like his personality or he's on Twitter. He doesn't look presidential, so on and so forth. But he looked presidential tonight, and now you got these people investigating Trump, all these DAs and AGs and people investigating Trump. It looks like I don't know what country this is anymore, but I don't know if they're gonna pull Biden. But I know that I really don't know if I definitely don't think the media has their finger on the pulse of what people think. Because during the debate, my son said, "I don't want to listen to the old people talk. These two old people talk." Those exact words. And I was getting texts from people friends of mine who are lifelong Democrats, saying that Biden this week we got to do something. We can't have him up there.
Yeah.
This is coming from Democrats, so they can't have Biden running for president. You can't have him doing that.
I mean,
it becomes almost like a Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna.
I've never seen anybody up there.
Oh, go ahead.
I've never seen anybody up there stuttering like that, or most of the time it's incoherent, and this can't be allowed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it makes the country look weak. We look like we don't have a clue what's going on. Somebody's got to be making decisions for him. He can't be making any decisions. And you wonder, like, is this even a democracy anymore, or even it's definitely not a meritocracy, but this is a democracy where the best people get elected, or the best people, the best and the brightest are running the country, or is it just like a bunch of figureheads and a bunch of oligarchies? That is the case, but it's clear to the rest of the world that's the case now. You can't say that Biden represents the best and the brightest. Him up while he's up there, incoherent and looks feeble.
Yeah,
this is coming from Democrats.
Yeah. I was just gonna quickly piggyback off of your point to say that CNN, in the few minutes between the ending of the debate and us coming on, CNN was already I've never seen CNN. The panel that I think at least 12 people was on that panel. I can't even keep up. Like David Axelrod was there. Van Jones was there.
I saw that. Yeah, Van Jones. I saw Van Jones. All I needed to see was Van Jones. That's all I needed.
Right. with 9 other folks vying for some camera attention. But I was shocked when they stated that Biden was weak. They were saying that Democrats are worried that this made Biden look weak. He lost. They're emphatically, and this is immediately after the debate. Not even Van Jones could chime in some saving grace or shed a tear or two. How bad this is. Yeah, he never beaten them allegations. He never beaten them. But yeah, it's like I was shocked. I was shocked. Like, wow. Time is really up when CNN
Yeah, I mean,
dancing between raindrops trying to make this work.
yeah, but it's still fake. It's still fake. It's still fake news because to say that Biden looked weak. What did they expect? And the Democrats are worried about what they weren't worried 4 years ago when he had that mask on and he wasn't really didn't have to debate. They weren't worried 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When the best they could come up with, we gotta resist Trump. That's the best they could come up with. So, and during the debate, Trump basically said the news is fake. The country is we're in trouble, and I never really thought about it till tonight. I know you're the Debbie Downer, but I'm depressed after seeing you know what I'm saying? After seeing what I saw tonight, I'm like, whoa. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. I mean, he was just running around talking, and like this guy has no clue what he's doing. Just want to be president, just to be doing it. And probably one of the most unpatriotic things people have done is to put this guy up there just to resist Trump. So that's basically my take on it. Now, this coming from Democrats saying he can't be president, which is what we were saying years ago, and nobody was listening. So, particularly when it comes to African Americans, because we know the fallout going to hit blacks harder. So when you tell them something, they don't listen because you're a jerk because you're using facts and figures and logic and reason to make your point. So you're a jerk. You know what I mean? You ought to be put on house arrest like Galileo, I guess. But anyway, so that's basically it. I know we haven't done this in a while, but this is definitely a good one to come back on. That's Trump and Biden presidential debate. Trump won. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you.